Okay, Fritz, you've told us basically that when you and your wife Marjorie were putting out the newspapers, you were working 18-hour days, 6 and probably sometimes 7 days a week. But you also had time for a social life in this little town, which was a very friendly little town of Solon, Iowa. So what was it like in mid-century?
Well, like you say, we spent most of our waking hours working, but we had lots of people who stopped in the shop.
Oh, so that was a big part of it?
In business. Superintendent of schools, the Catholic priest.
Now, I understand that you were the first people in town, or the second people in town to have a TV. Yes, and that there was a lot of socializing around that.
Yeah, we bought our first TV in about 49 or 50, I don't remember which year. But I remember particularly I have a picture at home of the first New Year's Day game when the telecast in our front room.
That was probably the Rose Bowl, right?
Well, yes. And in our front room there were probably about 10 or 12 people watching. It was large for those days, 20-inch television.
Right.
Came in on an aerial that we had on top of our shop.
Right.
We were able to get about 2 or 3 stations. A good day we might get a pickup for. Very seldom.
And back in those days, people didn't chatter and do stuff while the TV was on. The TV was...
They watched the TV and that was it.
Right.
And Solon, of course, like you say, was not a large town, but I always tell people it was a small town, but it had 6 taverns.
So that was another way of socializing, right?
In those days in Iowa, taverns were not supposed to sell anything except 3.2 beer.
Right.
And anybody that drinks beer knows what that is. It doesn't go a little colored water. But anyway, the 6 taverns in Solon also mixed drinks.
Ah.
During the Depression, during the Prohibition. I can remember one elderly gentleman run a tavern, he had his son, and he told me that he'd been running selling whiskey and mixed drinks for 50 or 60 years. In out his front door and the back door.
That certainly covered Prohibition, right?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Go on, that's all right.
And I understand, I think you were very near the University of Iowa, right? In Iowa City, so.
Yeah, we were about 10 miles from the university. And of course in those days, which you don't, not now, all newspapers got 2 tickets for $1 a piece. Which is primarily the tax on them in those days. So we went to all the Iowa University football games. And in those days, a crowd of 40,000 was a big crowd.
Right.
Now they probably double that.
And Iowa had a pretty good team back then too, right?
Well, a couple of times. We were there when Forrest Eveshetsky came. And they went through 3 or 4 coaches while we were there, but they'd finally have pretty good teams before we left.
Well, they went to the Rose Bowl a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you went to football games, people came into the shop.
Yeah, and we had friends of ours had a cabin out on the river.
Yeah.
Which incidentally washed away in the last flood.
The one that was just happened in the early June in Iowa, right?
Yes. We used to have parties out there. Nothing very boisterous, but we had a good time.
So it doesn't sound like you two had much time to do much sleeping at all, what with the working and a fair amount of socializing.
Well, if you get 6 or 8 hours, 6 hours a night, that was pretty good.
That was pretty good. Okay, thank you.